anybody ever come up to you and say, how much do you leg press? No.
Never in the history of humanity has anyone said that.
And nobody likes to do squats. Why? Because they're hard. People don't like doing things that are hard.
Yeah. That's true. You can put a lot of look really big on leg press. That's so funny. My name is Andrew Bice. I spent the last 8 years riding a swell as a Special Warfare Combatant-Crewmen. I've had moments where I felt like I've been riding on tops of waves, and others where I feel pinned to the ocean floor under the whitewash. I've held many titles in my life: son, husband, father, operator. Join me as I venture into a whole new role, this time as a civvy. Welcome to Civvies, a podcast by MetroStar. Hello, welcome to Civvies. I got a special guest today, Travis Williams. I've had some would say a fortunate opportunity to work with him a lot. Others may not have enjoyed it as much, just due to the amount of pain he finds to put you through his physical and mental demanding workouts. So with that, Travis, welcome to the show, man. And I'm going to start with kind of your background. I know you're a fellow boat guy like myself. Maybe you can talk what years you're there. I think it was when the first canoe was there. It was a long time ago, man. And, just kind of tell me your story and then how you got into the world of human performance and working down at HP.
Man, we'll be here in a minute. First, it was always a pleasure working with you, dude.
I love it, dude.
But, so 2005, I checked in. And when I got there, from a strength and conditioning standpoint, it was kind of what you would imagine your typical command PT style stuff. But we had an athletic trainer, so it was quasi-led, And I was like, well, this is kind of weird. But you know what? At least it's all together, and it's not like boot camp style PT. So
yeah, jumping jacks, push-ups.
Exactly. It seemed like it had a rhyme and reason to it.
Yeah.
And I was always kind of big into fitness and martial arts and that sort of thing. Interesting sidebar is when the coach came out, I'm like, man, that guy looks really familiar. Like, where have I seen this guy before?
Yeah.
And finally, a few weeks in, get to hit it off. And like, dude, I've seen you before. You've got a familiar face. Where have you worked? And he was like, well, I used to coach over at Virginia Wesleyan College. I'm like, oh yeah, I went there,
yeah,
back in the day, before I entered the military. And he's like, yeah, I think I'm like, no, you don't. Cause I was the guy pissed off when you'd shut down the gym to bring all the soccer players in.
Yeah.
But anyway, we kicked it off pretty well after that. And then I just became a little bit more intrigued as to how he landed that position and then what education, he had to fill that spot.
Right. Because you could have all these people, obviously, like a lot of guys in our community, they love working out. And they get out and they just like, I just want to help people and get yoked and get them yoked. Yeah. But I think a lot of times they don't know that there's certifications. You have to be qualified.
Yeah. There's so much more to it than just, hey, let's get a sweat on. There really is. And I think that's kind of, it's 50-50, I think, with the influx of information that's out there now. Like you have that half that, oh man, all we got to do is sweat kind of deal. But then you are getting to see that other half of there's a method and there's a very strategic mindset when you want to truly progress, and whether it's athletics or just, that personal feat. And that's important. But,
yeah, I'm sure we can go down a rabbit hole as far as the ease and access of information constantly being bombarded on what you see on Instagram, on whatever the hell it is. And you're like, I'm going to listen to this. And people try it and they're like, well, that was hocus pocus. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
If they even try it, who knows?
Deal with that constantly. Again, there's always pros and cons, but that kind of started my journey from an education standpoint to, finishing my degree, going on to my master's, looking at different certifications, all kind of while I was still in.
Okay.
Which was convenient, right?
Yeah.
Because I was able to, it was a group of guys that, oh man, let's follow Travis. So I got to kind of design and play around, experiment with all that I was learning, and built some savages. I mean,
that's where it's at.
Pretty cool. And then it's coming up to that second enlistment decision.
The dreadful one. Yes. They tend to either hang a carrot in front of you, and you're in your head. You can't sleep at night, and
right.
That's a tough struggle.
And I was married at the time, and it was like, what should we do? And I hadn't quite had it all figured out, which we never do, right?
Yeah, that's the truth.
So I stayed in. It's like, okay, I'm doing one more. I'm hitting that milestone for the masters, and then parting ways with the military. And again, Mike kind of guided me from an education standpoint. Hey, this will be good. This will be good. This will be good. To kind of fill those voids as a civilian coach. And so that's what I did. That was kind of my that active duty aspect from going active duty operator to now strength coach.
Yes. I mean, essentially you're fortunate enough to where you kind of knew the path, or what's always been aligned to who you are. So you kind of kept a foot in that, pursuing it while obviously you're doing the military. So you kind of had that idea of where you wanted to go, which is awesome.
And it's funny, right? Like, mindset plays a huge role of that. Like, you and I use words, and you hear people say fortunate, right? And for me, I've heard somebody say, really be careful with that word, because, you put yourself in your spot. Like, you didn't just happen to be there, right?
Yeah.
We worked to be where we got most of the time, right?
Yeah.
So yes, I can say it was fortunate to have him and have that guidance, but man, give ourselves the credit that.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's not like you magically get a certification, or you magically end up on the plane. You got to train, you put in the hours. Yeah. It's definitely in the moment, I'm sure.
So I think it's a good mindset to take away from those life experiences as well. As we grow.
You keep building on those wins too, because like I did that. Guess what else I can do?
Yeah.
Oh, guess what else I can do? And you just keep killing it, essentially.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm definitely grateful and appreciative, that I've had those opportunities, but they were definitely made. Right place, right time does help, but yeah, and then 2012, I separated out, and then went to work for Athlete Performance at the time. They were now known as Exos, and they had a position with the Army up in DC. Some cool cats up there.
Yeah.
That's about all I can say.
Cooler than the Navy guys you were part of.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah, what a political man over here. Look out.
Good dudes. Savages, man, all of them. And I worked my ass off like up there with those guys, but they gave 100% every day I was there. And it, as a Navy guy, in amongst soft communities, it was like night and day. Mindset, training philosophy, like how regimented those guys were. Not saying that we weren't. I mean, the schedule is definitely different.
Yeah.
But it made me, have that epiphany. Oh man, it's not all the same. So, especially as a coach, like had to adapt when I moved into the military, Navy side of the things. Okay, well, it's definitely not running like these guys. Mm-hmm. So how can I keep that same tempo, that same upbeat, high motivation / education experience, and, carry on.
Right. How you bring that, all the cool stuff over backed with you to a whole different rule and mindset probably that's there. And I mean, I don't want to get too deep as far as the people in charge and how much they control, but that does play a huge factor,
Huge.
We were just talking about this earlier as far as, every guy wants to be a beast. They we watch all these cool movies. Think about like Predator back in the day, still uncontested best movie of all time.
Agreed.
But you got these mountain men, right? And they're soldiers too, but they're strong, and you want to grow up to be just like that. I want to go to special operations, not only because I'll be doing real stuff, but I'll also be big. And we take that. That's important for us to be physical mountains, right?
Yeah.
And then you have this idea, and then you get to the space, and then you talk about constant training, or what hours are actually allotted for it. You have to make time for it. Maybe it's not so regimented, depending on the training schedule and where you're at. But for the leadership to take on board in the right way and to listen to you and the guys, because the guys want it too. At least I tend to think they do,
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Do you find, is that always going to be a struggle, you think, finding that perfect balance between getting the right people on board and getting the right programs implemented?
And again, I would say years ago, and if I was with the Army, I would say that's an easy question, no brainer. Like, because I had that, you saw that led from the top. No kidding. Like, I had a general and lieutenant colonels in my strength session, you know, in that morning, right? Getting started at 6 a.m.
In there with them,
grinding, dude, and hats off to them. But they made it part of their day. And if somebody, little E3, E4 wasn't putting out, man, they let them.
They got an earful.
They did. And I don't see too much of that anymore, which is kind of disheartening in a way. But, on the flip side of that, we all have to be, we say grown men about things, but actions speak.
Yeah. Yeah. This is funny. I was thinking about this because, when you're working with other forces or other partner forces, whoever, you're working with Army, you're working with Air Force, whatever, you're usually joining up as a team and you're coming together to do a mission, right? Whatever the hell it is, or just working together. And you could have, let's say that everyone's in a room and then you have a certain somebody show up and they don't look like the typical or what you have in mind, right? Like, I want this strong, like masculine dude. And then you got some overweight, like guys, like, I don't know if he's going to make it. I don't think he can run a mile. I don't think he can walk a mile.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I was thinking about this. I know it's a loaded question. You don't have to answer it, but it's like, almost like, what do you care about as like an E-dog, right? Like a junior guy, like your reputation, and you want to be good at your job and you want to be big, usually. But then, once you get to the top, you have different priorities. And then it's like, once you're a certain rank, it's like, oh, that guy, I could look at him. He's probably a chief or something. I don't know. That's not always the case, right? And respect kind of goes with how you look, but it's almost like, do you see like the higher you get up, it's almost like the more you let yourself go or you justify it, or the older you get, people lean on age and responsibility and all this stuff, but they forget it's the man factor. Like, hey, be a grown man and you make time for it where you need to. It's
funny, right? Like we all say, you can't judge a book by its cover. So hear me out, right? If you have a freaking brontosaurus over here, the dinosaur, right? And you have a freaking T-Rex over here. You know, which way, if you had to choose to run towards one, would you go to?
Brontosaurus. Actually, no. Psych. Trick question. Psych. I'm going towards the T-Rex and I'm taking them on. I got to say that right, Travis.
Taking them on, right?
Yeah, Brontosaurus,
that's right? No.
100%.
But, you know, it's just human nature. We can deny it all we want, but the reason why you chose that way is because it looks slower, right? I might survive. Like, I mean, you know, it's intuitive. Plain and simple, just by a sight, you know? I mean, I've worked with some SWAT guys and, you know, in a performance setting, like when you're focusing on speed, agility, all these things, right? It's a different kind of training. And you're kind of taking that to these guys and you want them to do all these things, but you're like, hey, why are you guys putting so much volume in on arms and stuff? Well, we got to have big arms. And early on in my coaching days, I'm like, well, yeah, it's cool to have big arms, but the why, right? You get in that aspect of asking yourself, why is it truly important from a performance, like you think performance setting? And well, their performance is on the street and everybody is looking at those guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, from criminals, right? Seeing a freaking yoked dude with arms, because that's what is seen, you know?
Yeah.
Outside of like all kitted up. Like, you're not going to, like, oh man, that dude's going to freaking.
It's the intimidation factor, I guess.
Yes,
it's how you interpret what you see. And
that's part of their performance, you know? So as a coach, I definitely have to think outside the box, not just, it's how fast I can do my 40 or make this cut or whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
It's finding that balance between the never ending balance between functional strength and like how we want to look too.
Yeah.
I think another kind of weird piece here is, you know, we're both fathers. I called you the other day and in your voicemail, you know, there's something you refer to your children as.
Yeah, mini Spartans.
Your mini Spartans, dude. And that's just I'm sure some people can hear that like, this guy's either crazy or he's like, I don't know how many raw eggs he's drinking or what. But I think for us too, we want to instill so many values into what we care about, especially our children.
Yeah.
Because they're going to carry on not only your name, your legacy, but you want them to be good stewards, you know. Mm-hmm. The whole, like, you want to be masculine, you know, full body, mental, spirit, whatever it is. You want them, you don't want to be some little jerk kid.
No,
you know?
No. And that's huge, man. And, you know, I want them to grow from my mistakes and see, you know, dad's not perfect, but you know what? That was, he was messed up. He was at fault there. I can make myself better, you know, from him. And, as guys, fathers, like, I don't think that's instilled enough, especially to sons, you know. I think that component is missing. And I think it was on some Yahoo News or something I saw today, like this morning, why is America leading, you know, the world in fatherless families and stuff. And, you know, it's sad. And we can definitely go down the rabbit hole here. But I guess where I'm getting to is, you know, we know it's a thing from a societal standpoint in today. And, you know, I'm divorced. I see my boys really and about 36 hours every 2 weeks, you know, and it's rough. I call them every night. Now, whether or not they answer me is a whole different story. But all in good faith. At least my youngest is like, Dad, I ignored you. I was playing with a friend, you know.
Yeah, hello,
that's cool.
Yeah.
And but that's awesome. You know, I take that as growth. Like, hey, he's able to tell me, yeah, I saw you called, but you know, I was chilling with my bud or something, and I want him to have that openness, you know, and to know that I'm okay with that. You're being a mini Spartan, man. Yeah. You're doing your thing. just know that I was there if you needed me. You know?
No, that's huge.
And
I think people too, especially coming from the dad side of the house, you know, as far as you're going to get in some weird stuff when you think about like emotion and stuff, but like, hey dude, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like it even probably shows more strength that you have the ability to deal with yourself and look at yourself in the mirror. Like that's probably the toughest, like when you're dealing yourself. Like,
And I mean, I wasn't in, I mean, it was my late 30s before I finally started figuring some stuff out from that personal and emotional aspect of growth. You know, divorce is hard. I don't wish that on anybody. Sometimes I do think it's the healthiest way.
Yeah.
And that's the stigma, right? That it's this hard cut, negative thing, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It really, really doesn't, man.
Yeah. And to say that they don't value as much or like look to you as much, you know, that would be wrong, you know, because a father is a father and they're always seen that way, even if it's for a weekend. Cause I dealt with that too.
Yeah. So did I.
Yeah, exactly. We know the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, look at us too. Look what we've experienced. Look what all the stuff we've done. Like, dude, there's hope out there, man. Don't get down on yourself because if we can do it, anyone can. That's right. You just got to have the drive, man.
That's right.
Yeah. So like this whole idea of like, you know, you're breeding Spartans, you know, even with your kids, even, we talk, I'm going to read you a stat and this is kind of crazy to think about. And I don't know, I want to get your take on this just because you've been, you know, training operators and in that space for so long. Just listen to this. Okay. You ready for it? All right. This was 3 years ago too, by the way. So 2020, the Pentagon did a study and it indicated 77% of Americans ages 17 to 24 would not qualify for military service. And I was thinking about that. I was like, okay, maybe that's like basic military service. Like, all right. Because they're either overweight, prior drug use, or mental or physical health problems. That's saying 77%. And I was like, I don't know. What's your take on that? Because part of me is like, no chance. Like that is such a high number.
Yeah. And that was actually brought up at TSAC conference by NSCA that I have to go to every year. There was an actual really cool presentation. I'll try to get that to you. It's interesting. It's along those lines.
Yeah.
But it does raise questions, you know, and where's the quality going? We see it in soft communities as well, as far as, you know, we're going to talk about it.
Just do it. You just bring it out. Come on, Travis.
I have to, you know, because, and you yourself, like you put out to take pride in something because it's a challenge, and there's nothing wrong with taking pride over pushing yourself and exceeding what, right, that average person, that average number there isn't even going to think about trying to do.
Yeah.
And you're seeing, to meet a quota, this quality depreciate just so we can say, oh, we've got X number, this quota. And, you know, look at
it's
other,
like quota over quality, I guess you can think of now. Yeah. And I think, you know, as far as I'm going to shift gears here again, you know, because so you've trained a lot of people, right? Like you're trained top tier, like, hey, these are operators. They're going to be, they need functional strength. They need physical strength. They need, it's important. It's a part of what we do, and it's important and should be realized that this is a focus, right? Now you've taught, trained civilians as well, right?
I have,
like strictly civilians, no military background. I'll give you one person, right? You get your typical alpha male from the operator side of the house, whatever. And then you pick your civilian who wants to train. Well, who are you going to take? I know there's a little bit different here, but do you prefer training one versus the other? Or do you see any similarities too between the two?
Yeah. No, that's an awesome question, man. And I would say, honestly, I would answer that based on where I was in my coaching career. Early on, I would have said the operator, like no hesitation, right? Honestly, now, years in, over a decade, geez. Yeah. Excuse me. The civilian's fun. And I'll tell you why. They realize they're investing in something, not only time-wise, financially, but they're wanting to take something away that's deeper. And you really get to experience and feel that with majority of the civilians that I've worked with, that have come into my gym. Not knocking operators, but majority of them are very hard to coach. Right. And
we think we know it all, probably.
Not even know it all, but it's funny, there's nothing wrong with being an alpha male, but at some point you've got to have some of that humility to, man, maybe I can't do this just, right. And hey, here's the professional that's trying to guide me and help me out. Like, let's give them that chance.
Yeah.
So coachability is huge, right? And can you have a coachable operator? Absolutely. I've got a ton, and they're awesome dudes. Same civilian, coachable, uncoachable. So,
maybe that main piece is the drive piece.
The drive
piece.
I
want the mental piece is always the biggest game.
The connection, right? Yeah. Between that coach and I'll say athlete, that coaching individual or your coachee, right? Lots of times I would have to say it's been with the civilian that I've really had that connection, with. But again, it's a different thing. Today, I think a lot of guys are coming in, the younger guys, and I will specify younger guys, walking around with that big entitlement piece on their chest. And I don't know where that's coming from, but you can definitely see it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
Maybe it's after, I don't know, full of piss and vinegar at that young age, and you made it through a selection process, and now everything's so glorified. In TV and movies, you can watch whatever, pick your whatever. There's so much out there, and they think they made it a part of the big boys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like nothing can touch me now. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
That comes with good and bad, I guess. Right.
It is. And like I said, man, I've got some awesome dudes that, I love to work with. I have that connection piece, and that there, it's, now is greater for me because heck, man, the civilian is it's changing their life for the better and all those sorts of things. But this guy's not to say the civilian can't, save a life or use it to, possibly save him, herself, and others. But we all know operator life, like your physicality. I mean, that's a lifeline. It is. And that's critical, man. That's 100%. Important.
Yeah. Even like from a medic standpoint, you got these guys who've trained their heart, like even their heart, their vascular system, everything. If somebody does get shot, God forbid, but you should be able to have the physical, hopefully resiliency to fight that or stay with it longer than somebody who's never done anything ever in their life. They get shot, and I don't know. I don't know if that plays into it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy too, is because people are so bombarded by what they see and they want all this stuff. And like, even when I was going through, we would look at these instructors, like I call it like the giant among men syndrome, right? Like these guys are big. And then, what they'd have above their office, it'd be like a stack, right? For what that means is like, they have a giant tub of whey protein. They got like 6 other supplements. One of them, one's got a guy with a skull and fire in his eyes. And, this is going to make you crazy and you're going to get the best. Right? But that leads into like the whole industry of supplements and what people think they need versus what they really need. You know, me personally, all I take right now is creatine, which, you know, we can go down mental, and we even use it for TBI protocol, things like that. People aren't aware of, but, you know, how do you feel about supplements and like what people think they need versus what they need?
Well, I mean, people need food. All right. Food is fuel. Food is medicine, right? That's always my go-to. Supplements are what they are. They're supplements. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with seeing a professional endocrinologist, somebody else of that nature, and getting some lab work done to see where your true deficiencies are from a healthy standpoint, right? And saying, oh, you know, I've got a vitamin D deficiency. Okay, let me supplement with vitamin D to better my health, right? Due to this professional assessment. As far as, you know, we know caffeine is a stimulant, right? We know creatine works based on all the research studies. I mean, those two have been studied for decades. Yeah. And we know they have that quality that causes something, right? Again, that's with consistent use, and to each his own, right? You're going to respond differently than I am with amounts of caffeine, levels of caffeine. 100%. Same with probably creatine, right? But do I think it's necessary to progress? Absolutely not. I mean, all you've got to have is that continuity in training, right? And what you eat, how you fuel. And that itself is going to be the driver. I mean, being overweight, right? What have you done to, minus any medical condition, right? Right. But what have you done consistently to be overweight? Well, you've consistently had a surplus of calories, which adds a surplus around your freaking waist. Yeah. Right? I mean, it's that simple. Right. What happens to, you know, somebody that consistently has a negative intake of their BMR, you know? Yeah. They are skinny. Why? Well, it's basic math. Yeah. So it's all in that consistency, man. Yeah. And then with that too, with that food aspect, which I do think is so important, then you get led down a whole nother path of these diets that go into like keto, into paleo, into meat, whatever it is. There's going to be a new one under the sun for the rest of our lives. And it's going to be popular and then not popular than not. Yep. It is. So then now you're tiptoeing with the diet piece too. You know what I mean? So then you're right back on something that's like you can't escape and you can't ever do it right too. So I love that. I love that, right? It's like I have somebody that comes to me and they're like, oh, well, I've tried everything, right? Well, how long have you been trying? Oh, maybe about 6 months. Heck, I'll even give them 12 months, right? Oh, so you've tried everything in 12 months. So you've stuck to nothing. Yeah. You just ousted yourself. But that, you know, people want that quick fix. And 100%. You've got to, I mean, look at how long it took you to get where you are. It didn't take just 6 months to a year, right? You were continuously doing something over years. And I mean, that's what it's going to take, you know, to get things back the way you want, or, you know, you were. I don't think anybody wanted to hear that it actually doesn't happen overnight and there's a quick fix. That's like we go down mental, we go down physical, everything is a quick fix. And it's like snake oil, modern day snake oil is being sold. Nobody wants to hear the cold, hard truth. Yeah, man. It takes time. Yeah. It takes consistency and it sucks. Yeah. It's not pretty. It's not. Yeah. It's not. And I'm a weirdo when it comes to music, right? Especially like for training sessions and stuff. Everybody knows me for liking my classical, you know, or instrumental stuff. Like, and I like, film scores, things like that, to train to, or just silence. But there's some really good, and they're nothing more than motivational clips, you know, on YouTube. But there's one that I listen to pretty frequent. And he starts out, it's, action. Action is the driver for everything, right? The step forward to the last step. But it's for days, for weeks, for months, for years, right? Those are the people that you see, walking around like, man, what does that person do? Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, it didn't happen overnight, over a month. Like that's years of the same thing, when guys talk about, well, I want to do this diet and I want to train this way. How long? 12 weeks? Should be good.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's it, right?
Sure. Okay. I'm like, guys that want to start Olympic lifting, I'm like, give me 12 months. You commit to 12 months. We've started the foundation.
Yeah.
And they're like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Never going to see that guy again. I'm gonna work out on my own in my garage gym. Hell yeah.
And nobody wants to just take the time to appreciate the finer points, the technical aspects of things, and the mind-body connection that needs to take place, especially in that beginning phase. Because that's huge, man. That's huge.
Yeah, I think that you just hit it, that the biggest driver for everything, that no matter what it is with any individual, is the mental piece, that mental side. Yeah. Everything's controlled up here by your old brain box, right? Mm-hmm. But that also goes into how much you're going to do, what you're going to do, whatever. It has with everything. For the physical side, that's one piece, but that mental side, that's a huge piece. Mm-hmm. Do you think maybe we don't focus on that mental side enough, or, it gets turned on a little bit when you are in the gym, or?
Yeah, I was actually coaching with a colleague who is a sports psych. We call him a cognitive performance specialist. And he asked the group we're coaching, he's like, hey, how many are present right here? After this, technique I coached through, and, goes around the horn, and guys are like, oh, maybe 60%, 30%. It's like, well, if you're not here, 100%, one, where's the rest? Like, what are you thinking about? That could be that important that you can't just cut off. And by no means am I calling these guys out, because I've been there, and I understand that it's a practice, and it takes practice in order to hone in and be present for that given time. But that's what it takes in order to truly make a difference when you're talking training versus getting a workout, Mm-hmm. And a lot of people mistake that, oh, well, I'm going to go work out, I'm going to go sweat. Anybody can sweat, right? But those that train, again, is that person walking around, you're like, damn, what the heck does that person do? It's like, well, that person trains, and they train consistently. Doesn't matter what kind of workout it is, right?
Yeah.
But it's been consistent. Mm-hmm. And they are in tune mentally. All of those sessions.
Yeah. Ringing up top.
Yeah.
I'm never going to do that. My brain's not very serious.
No, you've been there. I know it, man.
Yeah. And like that, stressors in the world, that messes with how you're thinking, what's going on at home, what you're training for, everything plays in.
But yeah. And I don't think it is, we as people truly tend to that mental aspect like we should, especially with all the great stuff that's come out. And, recently I would say, on how important that is, and the steps, right? There are processes, there's methods, systems that professionals have developed and packaged that can guide you through those practices, and they're phenomenal.
Yeah,
they really are.
Yeah, you think as a society we kind of lack the viewing what's important, right? Like I go to a job from 9 to 5. I'm chilling in an office.
Yeah.
Like, do you think maybe more companies be like, hey man, like let's take some time. Like usually they're pretty good as far as like maybe the mental piece, make sure you get some time off, reset. But then what we value, like, money, whatever it is, it's like sometimes the physical part goes, which then leads down a whole nother rabbit hole down the road. Yeah. Right. And you're like, I have all the money in the world, but I can't get around to use it, or, what I mean? Like whatever it is, or now you become a burden to your, I don't want to say that, but you can't take care of yourself, which is your responsibility as a human.
Absolutely, man. And it's not selfish to put yourself first. You have to take care of you, because if you don't, how are you going to take care of your kids, your wife, your significant other? Doesn't matter. I mean, if you are not at 100% or close to it, you're the detriment, right? You're the freaking flat tire that's, needs to get them where they need to be. And I think that's the true aspect that's forgotten. Whether you're, it doesn't matter, male or female, right? If you're the individual that's put on, for lack of a better word, the pedestal to be a provider. Yeah. And you are falling short with, taking care of yourself and letting that go to the wayside. You're just setting yourself up for failure. It's hard. Don't get me wrong, and just about everybody's been there at some point or another, but you've got to make that time. You've got to put the time in, and that's nothing more than discipline. Yeah. And the discipline word is definitely something that I'm sure we could talk for hours on. Cause discipline's hard, right? Yeah. Nobody likes it.
It's hard.
Hey, don't look at frickin' Instagram or, anything else for like, 3 days.
Oh, good luck. How long do they last?
Dude, I know.
Not a weekend, right? Maybe one weekend.
But, and we would think, oh, that's simple, right? Like, can you open your phone and just use it for literally a phone call? Yeah. Like old times when you had to be in the kitchen to use the phone,
Yeah, with the cord going wrapped around everything.
That discipline word is tough, but we've got to take care of ourselves. That's the only way we can truly be that support leg, that support pillar for those we love, and want to protect, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. That's awesome. Travis, we've talking about, how important physical aspect, mental aspect is it. I think I can still run with the big dogs and give you a run for your money. I say we get after it in the gym and we start pushing ourselves.
Absolutely. Are you going to take your shirt off?
100%.
It's all right, man. I'll wear jorts, all right?
Hell yeah, let's go, dude. Let's get it.
Absolutely. Man.
Cool. It's crazy to think about too. So guys take a break and they come back in it, and then they get injured. You know what I mean? Then it kind of gets them out of the game longer. Yeah, I don't know. When you talk about like injuries and I guess working around those, I think it's hard for some guys who can't get back due to some constraint, right? They can't get back to how it used to be or how it was, but
that's the toughest mental challenge outside of it all. When this thing went, dude, I was freaking in there doing one-arm deadlifts with this thing strapped to my freaking body. Yeah. Like I did not stop at all. Minus my post-op freaking like few days. But as soon as I was cleared to go back, I think it was 2 weeks. He was like, hey, whatever you can do, you're fine. Obviously this was still slung up, but minus your PT, everything I could do on this side, I didn't drop weight. I didn't, skip out on reps. Like it was all there. And there's definitely a lot of research with that, causing this to potentially heal quicker, right? Yeah. Or come back quicker. We could get into that science, but no need. The fact of the matter is you just keep going. You know, do what you can, whether it's your little toe, you know, crushed arm. I mean, what are these guys, these amputees, single arm cleans with a barbell?
Yeah.
It's here, man. It's here. You think that was fun the first few hundred reps trying to get that freaking right?
Probably felt awkward as hell.
Yeah, but they're doing it.
They're doing
it. I mean, that's
You know, as far as like T levels in the operator space, as far as being under constant stress, being under constant workload, do you think T levels are a thing of discussion or should be more of?
So ultimately, yes, right? But here's the thing. We're all different, right? We're all going to operate at different levels anyway. Your optimal levels are going to be different from my optimal levels, right?
Yeah.
But it takes a professional to figure that out, right? Endocrinologist needs to do that drill. You've got to keep a nice journal and start making that correlation. You know, on paper, that range, that healthy T range is pretty broad, right? But again, I know dudes that are 160 pounds soaking wet, and you wouldn't know them from, you know, a sheet of paper in the wind, but yet they got 1,000 on freaking T. And then freaking Joe Yoked over here is, down in like the 300-400s.
Yeah.
You know, why is that? And that's, you know, for the PhDs and all that to figure out. But, you know, we do know that not only physically, but mentally, right? That chemical balance is just critical for just longevity, just good, healthy, you know, longevity. And it's definitely, it needs to be, you know, sometimes needs to be taken.
Just something to be considered, taken into account. Yeah, that's interesting because, you know, people think their T has to be a certain level.
Right.
You have to be in the 1,000 up. You know what I mean?
And you know, I mean, the funny part about guys or anybody training, you know, they say this is the hard part. Well, is it really? What about the other 22 hours of the day where you gotta watch what you eat, you gotta hydrate, you gotta make sure you get enough sleep to recover? That's the hard part. This may look hard.
Yeah.
This is the easy part.
Yeah.
This is the fun part.
Yeah, you feel like how you feel when you come out of the gym. You know you feel good.
Yeah.
It's when you're down like 18 taquitos or tornadoes. You're like, okay,
that's right.
Now it's sneaking back up.
Yeah.
Travis, hey man, I really appreciate you taking the time today. You know, we had a great conversation. Definitely went down some rabbit holes we didn't intend, but that's kind of what happens when you have a good conversation with a good person. It kind of tends to go that way. So thank you for taking the time, man. And it's always a pleasure to be, you know, with somebody who values themselves and, you know, holds himself in such a good way. And you continue helping the operators and civilians, everybody kind of better themselves through that physical journey that they're taking. So thank you for taking the time, man.
Oh man, much appreciated, and thank you very much, dude.
Oh yeah,
I hopefully we get to do this again at some point.
Let's go.
Speaking of social media, right? Do have an IG account.
Yeah, man. What is that?
You can follow me. So see if you can figure it out. GWBLT, the number 64. So what do those letters stand for? Oh, that's a tough one, right?
That is a tough one.
Gods were built like this.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. I love that. I think that ties into that whole Stoic piece.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You know,
because
man, yeah.
That culture values not only strength in mind, but strength physically. So that's badass.
Yeah. Sculpture, man. Sculpture.
That's awesome. I love it.
Civvies is proudly brought to you by producer and sponsor MetroStar, a global digital services and solutions provider. Life transitions are hard without the pressure of finding a new job. Veterans at MetroStar have built a close-knit group within the organization and are eager to help you on your new path. To explore career opportunities and life at MetroStar, visit metrostar.com/veterans. We'll link that and other career pages in the show notes.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode of Civvies, presented by MetroStar. If you want to learn more about Civvies or MetroStar or just want to reach out, check out the links in the description. I'll catch y'all on the next one.
Oh, tag it. Yep. All right, breathe. Yes. Todd. I trapped, that's it.